Hey everybody, XEI here. We're going to have a little bit of fun. I'm going to give you 5 Mass Effect character concepts in 5 minutes. Not starting now, because I have to get some other information out of the way first. So first of all, the context. AngelArts' channel is running an audition for his Mass Effect Tabletop campaign Season 2. I have not watched his Mass Effect campaign Season 1 because he was kind enough to warn me not to very early on when I found his channel because there are spoilers in it to Season 3, and so I've skipped Campaign 1. I would love to see Campaign 2. I would love to see it from as early as possible, and so that might give you some understanding as to why I sort of fast-tracked Mass Effect 3 on this channel. And so that brings me to the second point before I start. For newcomers who might come to this episode, I have not finished the Mass Effect trilogy, and so please be careful with spoilers. I'm going to be giving you character concepts that are only based on my knowledge, which is Mass Effect 1 and 2, and 2 hours into Mass Effect 3, which may or may not have, it actually will, because I have one character that, you'll know what I'm talking about. Okay, so with that, I can't stress enough, please, no spoilers down in the comments. Please keep me protected. It's only another 3 or 4 months until I'm done the trilogy, and then I can actually watch AngelArts' Mass Effect Season 1 and get caught up with Mass Effect Season 2 after this audition cycle is through and the next players are chosen and the new campaign starts. I want to sort of encourage people of this community that if you are interested in Mass Effect, you're interested in tabletop gaming, you're looking for an opportunity to play in a campaign that it's normally about a year long, and it's webcam, it's audio, so you do have to take that into consideration. But if you're looking for a group like that to play in, AngelArts' channel is highly recommended by me in particular because of the way he focuses on character development and narrative, and the care he takes for plot construction, and I will even extend that, and his approach to his campaigns. He's run Dragon Age, Mass Effect, and now Pokemon, and there is a sort of crossover continuity that he's building into it, so he's got a bit of an AngelArts multiverse going on, and it's just very interesting. So I recommend anyone to go check out AngelArts' call out video. I'll put the link below, and Audition. Just give it a shot. 5-minute video of one character concept. I'm going to give you 5. So this is not very hard. Don't overthink things when it comes to coming up with character concepts, but do consider just unique approaches to characters, something that will give you some room to explore in a game like AngelArts. If you're not familiar with his games, all I can say is just watch his campaigns and you'll know what I'm talking about. But in any case, it explores a lot of character development, and I can't stress enough, it explores things. So you want to create concepts that have some wiggle room, that have some that can evolve with the narrative of the campaign. You want to have you want to have seeds of concepts in your characters that give you some unknown opportunities. So things that the concept itself you shouldn't have to understand your concept in and out when you go into any tabletop campaign. That's my personal recommendation. Everyone's up to having their own way of approaching tabletop. I like to make about 25% of a character, and then I want to have ideas for what the other 75% means, but all of that is up to the story. It's up to interactions with the characters, whether they're PCs or NPCs, and in an AngelArts campaign, that can go a long way. So with that said, I have 5 Mass Effect character concepts that I've created in about 45 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. One of them is an April Fool's joke that I was going to release an audition video on April Fool's, but I can't audition because I was one of the main players in his recent Pokemon tabletop campaign, and so I was going to do it for fun. I'm going to include him as the last character in this roll call because I'll probably take the longest to do him because he's awesome. So without further ado, I'm going to get started. I'm going to start this counter now, and I'm going to see if I can do the next 5 concepts in 5 minutes. So the first concept is a 1-year-old Vorcha female who grew up on the streets of Omega, and she was basically a message runner that the different mercenary companies would use to send messages through a hostile terrain. And she did it because she's a Vorcha, and because she's small and tiny, and she could get through crawl spaces and stuff like that. And so in her kind of early career as a 1-year-old Vorcha, she befriended a mute Elcor, and this mute Elcor she calls Uncle. She never learned his name, but it seemed fitting that she would call him Uncle. She grew some strong affections for this Elcor, and she loves riding this Elcor through the streets of Omega, and she has promised this Elcor to that they will both leave Omega together when she becomes an adult. Unfortunately, he has to wait an excruciating year and a half until she reaches adulthood and makes real adult money in order to get them off this. And of course, he can't communicate, but you sense that he just smiles and goes along with this. So that's concept number 1. Concept number 2. Concept number 2 is an ex-Batarian slaver who did the unthinkable. He fell in love with one of his stock after he got abandoned on a planet by his caravan, by a slaver caravan. He now keeps his human wife hidden. This human wife is also protecting an infant, and he works in secret to basically disrupt Batarian slave operations, if not entirely dissolve them, with guerrilla tactics and patient small strikes of attrition. So that is it. That's my second concept. I'm going to keep moving on here. Third concept. It was probably one of my first concepts. It is an Elcor enthusiast of archived public domain human American westerns. His favorite actor of all time is Clint Eastwood. He was actually a student in, he was taking just a different cultural studies. Folks in his class used to tease him by calling him Spaghetti. So that's his name. The fourth idea, and this one is interesting because I'm about 2 hours into Mass Effect 3, and something got revealed in very early on in Mass Effect 3, which I got excited about because I knew I wanted to do this, and I saw confirmation of it without knowing that it was going to be something in the game. It wasn't exactly, and I don't know the details yet because, again, I'm only 2 hours into the game. It is a half-husk human, dragon tooth survivor. He was saved by a Turian special ops group that stabilized him, but left him permanently scarred, and he's got some kind of cyberware or whatever that keeps him together. But he is thinking like a human. He mostly remembers his past, but he has some lost memories because of what the Dragon Tooth kind of procedure did to him, and he is watched very carefully by this covert Turian human science cell, not Cerberus, but possibly a competitor agency, sort of on a leash. But he is trying to find an identity for himself and try to remove this kind of curse that is kind of going through his system. Again, I'm using some loose ideas here because, again, I don't want to look up and validate whether what I'm saying is possible or not, because I don't spoil myself. I have protected myself. I will not spoil myself. So do not correct me in the comments. Just go with it. Just go with it. Don't correct me. It's okay. It's okay if I'm wrong. Just having fun. And so the fifth idea, and I don't know where I'm at right now. I think I'm still within the 5-minute limit. So the fifth idea was for an adult entertainment Volus business mogul who was an early shadow investor that allowed Fornax to reach the broader markets. He is also the shadow producer of Xenophalic, the premier adult xenophilia periodical with a competitive adult model catalog, boasting to cover or uncover, am I right, the most diverse range of xenosexuality on the galactic market. So his less successful works, though, include 50 Shades of Blue. It got some spread, but it didn't reach as broad a market as he would have preferred. He also produced the cult favorite Now That's an Asari. That's spelled with 2 S's. Get the marketing right, please. And he's very proud of one in particular called Volustuous because it features his own people and their wonderful contribution to the sexual scene. And then finally he's got Batarian Bondage, which is a bit of a controversial film, which he doesn't really promote because of some of the stigma that goes behind that release. So his name is Soft Prawn. Folks in the industry just call him the Prawn because he's short, of course, even for a Volus. Those are my 5 ideas. Like I said, get on out there, give it a shot, have some fun with it, and try something new. Anyway, some of the inspiration for these, in particular for Soft Prawn, was actually the end of Mass Effect 2 in the Shadow Broker dossiers, where you read up on, I believe it was Grunt. I believe Jacob might have had an entry on it. In particular, it was Fornax for Fornax magazine. I believe it was Krogasm was the one in Grunt's dossier. I believe inside Ilium, I also picked up a magazine. I bought a magazine called Fornax, and I don't know where that ended up in the game, but I thought it was hilarious as soon as I saw it in the game. And then, of course, there's the scene in the bar on Ilium between the Turian and an Asari, where she's talking about the virtual, was it a virtual stimulator module for the Quarian suit? And I thought that was hilarious because even when reading the dossier, because of course Tali in her Shadow Broker dossier talks about considering the installation of said, I believe it was a virtual stimulation module or something. Anyways, so that's what actually triggered the idea for Soft Prawn, because he wants to develop that for his own people, because they both kind of wear suits, and so that idea came to my head. The idea for the Elcor actually came from Mass Effect 1. It was the first encounter with that Elcor in the embassy. That's hanging out with the Volus. That immediately made the Volus and the Elcor just have I really love those two races. I think there's a lot of potential to be done with them, and so I love that the Elcor, gives a descriptor for their emotion before they say what they're going to say, because they don't have very emotive kind of features, and I believe there was also something said in their codex where they actually they sense different auras, or they sense different pheromones or something between each other. That maybe that's the Enkindlers. Actually, they do color, right? Do they hear color or something? Anyways, I think the Elcor, it's like a scent or it's a pheromone or something, but I believe it's something like that. They have a different level of understanding of communication. Maybe it was the elevator of Mass Effect 1, and then just the broadcasting in Mass Effect 2 or advertising for the all Elcor Hamlet. I friggin' love the idea of that. I chuckle every time I come across that, and so I imagined an Elcor who maybe watched too many, what would be public domain now, Western movies from America, and then starts just quoting Clint Eastwood. So. Yeah, and then the half husk. The half husk idea came from. There was a moment in Mass Effect 2 where you're going through, it's near the end, right, where you're going through that, you're going through the derelict ship of the Reapers or the Collectors, and you get to that point where in the middle of it there's like the dragon teeth, and that reminded me of Mass Effect 1, which is the opening of the series, where you encounter those dragon teeth with those husks on it, and then they come out at you and they attack you, and that's kind of like the first, it's like the tutorial combat is from a husk, and so that's always carried on with me, where the idea of, so how long do they have to be part of that dragon tooth? Obviously the dragon teeth aren't, or based on Mass Effect 2, the implication there was that if they were on that derelict ship or whatever, that they weren't from the Geth. They come from before that. They come, it's Reaper technology or whatever the case might be. Do not correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. Don't worry about it. But anyways, that got me thinking about, but what if there was like this scenario where, the Collectors or Geth or whatever the case might be, put these like humans on these dragon teeth, and just as they got put onto the dragon teeth, and as like their bodies started transforming and started kind of pulling in like the cyber elements and that were replacing their bio elements, and then it's like a bomb goes off and it blows up like the dragon teeth, like it knocks them over, and so the humans fall off the tooth. And then I was like, what happens to those humans? Like, could a human be half converted or whatever? Like, could they be salvaged? And so that's where the idea for the half husk human came up. And then in the first hour and a half of Mass Effect 3, there's that moment where you're with I was with Caden in my playthrough right now, where he goes look for a comm thing so he can, like, you can trick like the Cerberus agents in there, and he pulls off the helmet and you can tell that they got, like, they're kind of husked. And that goes back, of course, to Cerberus operations in Mass Effect 1, where they were doing they were doing that testing and crap. And anyways, so when I saw that scene, I was like, oh man, I had an idea for how this could work, but I hadn't connected the Cerberus thing, even though it was a massive component of, you know, Mass Effect 1. So there's that. And then the female Vorcha, what I find amazing about the Vorcha is that they're really the goblins of the Mass Effect setting. They're cannon fodder. They're not really given the time of day. They are sort of stupid for the most part, or relatively speaking, to the other races. They are used as literally just their disposable bio things. And so I started watching the second campaign of Critical Role, and there's that little goblin girl in that one, and the way that it's played, it's so good. And I watched the first 7 episodes in, I think, 5 days, and so anyways, that kind of inspired me to this idea of, like, a small Vorcha girl. There's a 6-month-old little girl like just running through Omega doing message courier stuff. So, and then I was like, well, what would protect her? A freaking Elcor. And then I imagined, like, this, I had this visual of, like, this little Vorcha girl, like, sitting on the back of an Elcor, and the Elcor doesn't speak, but they kind of get along and understand each other. And anyways, that's how that works. So concepts are fun, man. Have some fun out there. Give it a go. Give it a shot. And maybe I'll do more of this in the future for other things. I don't know. I could do this all day, every day. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed the extra information about how I, even came to these ideas, and how you don't need to spoil yourself to let your brain just go out there and think about things in different ways. Just part of enjoying, I'm gonna rant again, I'm gonna derail again. So part of enjoying world building, from my perspective, and why I love lore so much, is because of these kinds of things. Is that my head doesn't stay with only the stuff that a game gives me. Is when I'm done playing a game, I go away from the game and I start thinking about the world. And the more I immerse myself into the game's lore, or the book's lore, or whatever the case might be, the more my imagination starts to build this world around the world that's presented to me. And then the world becomes more real, and then I can interact in the world more authentically, because I feel like the world is expanding well outside, well beyond the world that I'm being presented with. And so that's just to give you a little bit more context about just why the deeper I'm in a world, the more likely I'm going to do stuff like this, where then I end up buying everything for the world. I want to absorb more, and then I just want to I want to live in these fake worlds. I love the escapism of imagination. I encourage folks to just read and enjoy playing games beyond the game. Just embrace the game as art and what it can give you, and really embrace that escapism that it provides, for your creative juices to flow. I don't know what this is, but I'm going to end this here. Don't forget to explore, engage, and inspire, buddy. Get on out there. Enjoy. Peace.